Before I ever packed a bag or booked a ticket, I was stuck in a routine: work, home, TV, repeat. Each day felt like a copy of the last, a never-ending loop that left me restless and yearning for something more. I dreamed of adventure, of a life bigger than my cubicle. I'd catch myself staring out the window, imagining distant places and wild possibilities. The world in books and movies felt out of reach, reserved for braver people, those who weren't afraid to leap into the unknown. I envied their courage, wondering if I'd ever find my own. But every day, the urge for something more grew. It was a quiet ache, a whisper that became impossible to ignore. I'd spend hours online, staring at photos of temples, mountains, and markets, each one calling to me. I'd imagine myself wandering through ancient streets, tasting new foods, and meeting people whose lives were so different from mine. It wasn't just about seeing new places. It was about escaping the ordinary and finding a new version of myself. I wanted to break free from the walls I'd built around my life. The turning point came when I met a traveler who'd just returned from a year abroad. He seemed changed, more alive, more open, as if the world had left its mark on him. His stories, sleeping under desert stars, learning to cook in Italy, making friends everywhere, were about connection and transformation. He spoke of moments that challenged him and how each one made him stronger. He made me realize travel wasn't an impossible dream. It was a choice, a decision to step outside my comfort zone and say yes to possibility. That night, I promised myself, no more letting fear hold me back. I would take the first step, no matter how small. I'd save, plan, and go. Even if it took months or years, I would make it happen. I started researching, budgeting, and mapping out my dreams. The idea was terrifying and exhilarating, like standing on the edge of a high dive, heart pounding, knowing the only way forward was to leap. But for the first time in years, I felt hope. I could see a new horizon, and it was finally within reach. I was done just dreaming about the world. I was ready to take action, to turn my longing into reality. I was ready to step into it, fears and all. The unknown no longer felt like a threat, but an invitation. This was the beginning of my journey. The first step was the hardest, but it was also the most important. I didn't know what I'd find, but I knew I had to try. The world was vast, and I was finally ready to explore it. The world was waiting, and I was finally ready to answer its call. My heart raced with anticipation for all the places I'd go and the person I'd become. Sometimes, all it takes is one spark to light the fire. That single moment of inspiration can change everything. And that night, my fire was lit. I knew my life would never be the same again. My first big trip was to Europe, a destination that felt safe. But for me, it was still a leap into the unknown. I'd always dreamed of exploring new places, but actually stepping onto that plane was a different story. Booking that one-way ticket was a rush of excitement and panic. My heart raced as I realized there was no turning back. This was real, and I was about to leave everything familiar behind. Friends and family thought I was crazy, but I knew I had to do this for myself. Their doubts made me nervous, but deep down, I felt a spark of courage I'd never known before. Landing in a foreign country, everything was new. The language, the smells, the food, the architecture. Every street corner was a discovery, and every moment felt like an adventure waiting to happen. I felt small, but free, suddenly responsible for every decision I made. There was a thrill in knowing that each step was mine alone to take. I made mistakes, wrong trains, overpriced souvenirs, awkward food orders. Sometimes I felt lost, but those moments became stories I'd laugh about later. But each mistake taught me something: how to ask for help, how to laugh at myself, how to be resilient. I learned that it was okay not to have all the answers. People were kind, and every challenge built my confidence. Strangers became friends, and the world felt a little less intimidating with every passing day. I remember sitting by a canal in Amsterdam, no schedule, just living in the moment. The gentle flow of water and the city's quiet energy made me feel at peace. The fear faded, replaced by peace and belonging. I realized I was exactly where I needed to be, and that feeling was priceless. I wasn't just visiting the world, I was becoming part of it. I joined in local traditions, shared meals, and felt a sense of connection I'd never expected. That trip changed me from the inside out. I grew more confident, more open, and more curious about what else was out there. I realized I'd made the right choice. The risks, the doubts, the challenges, they were all worth it for the person I was becoming. The world felt open, and so did I. Every horizon seemed possible, and I was ready to see what was next. My journey had truly begun, and I knew this was only the start of many more adventures to come. After Europe, I craved something even more challenging. So I went to Southeast Asia. Bangkok hit me with heat, chaos, and color. It was overwhelming, but I was hooked. I wandered through Thailand, Vietnam, Cambodia, and Laos, learning to slow down and appreciate the small things. Watching monks at sunrise, getting lost in ancient temples, my problems felt tiny in the face of so much history. I stayed in cheap guest houses, ate street food, and traveled on crowded buses. The less I had, the freer I felt. I learned that true wealth is in experiences, not possessions. On a remote Thai island, I found family in a group of strangers, sharing stories under the stars. I wasn't just a tourist anymore. I was a traveler, part of a global community. Southeast Asia taught me simplicity, connection, and contentment. I was changing, and I loved it. Food became my gateway to new cultures, a passport that let me travel deeper than any map could show. I used to be a picky eater, but travel turned me into a food adventurer. Each new dish was a challenge, and every bite pushed me out of my comfort zone. My rule: if the locals eat it, I'll try it. That simple promise led me to flavors I never imagined. Sitting on a plastic stool in Hanoi, eating pho from a street vendor, I tasted the heart of Vietnam. The broth was rich, the noodles soft, and the city's energy buzzed all around me. The best meals weren't in fancy restaurants, but in bustling markets and humble stalls, where recipes are passed down through generations. In Italy, I learned the magic of simple pasta, how just flour, eggs, and love could create something unforgettable. In Mexico, the power of chilies. Their heat and flavor transformed every meal into a celebration. In India, the wonder of spices. Each bite was a burst of color and aroma, a story told through taste. Sometimes I didn't even know what I was eating, but every meal was a story, a memory in the making. Trying new foods made me more open-minded, not just about eating, but about life itself. I learned to embrace the unknown. Food became a universal language, breaking down barriers and creating instant bonds, even when words failed. Sharing a meal connected me to people, even when we didn't share a language. Laughter and smiles filled the gaps. Every bite was a lesson in trust and curiosity, a reminder that the world is full of surprises if you're willing to taste them. The world's flavors rewired my brain and my heart. I became someone who seeks out the unfamiliar, hungry for new experiences. I learned to say yes, and it changed everything. Now, every meal is an adventure, and every flavor is a memory I carry with me. My world used to be small, defined by fear, of the unknown, of being alone, of failing. Travel forced me to face those fears, one by one. Navigating a foreign city solo was terrifying, but reaching my destination felt like victory. Each challenge, heights, deep water, social anxiety, expanded my comfort zone. Loneliness was tough, but I learned to enjoy my own company and reflect through journaling. Being alone didn't mean being lonely. It meant growth. The confidence I gained abroad changed my life at home. I became more resilient, willing to try new things, and unafraid to take risks. Travel showed me my own strength. I realized I was more capable and courageous than I'd ever believed. Every fear I faced made me stronger. The world and I grew bigger with every step. Landscapes were stunning, but it was the people who defined my journey. Friendships formed in hostels, on trains, and over meals became my support system. I hiked the Inca Trail with a stranger who became a lifelong friend. The kindness of locals, like the woman who cared for me when I was sick in Vietnam, restored my faith in humanity. Every person I met taught me something new about life, family, and happiness. These connections challenged my assumptions and expanded my world. The faces I remember are the soul of my travel memories. People made my journey rich and meaningful. Coming home after long-term travel was surreal. The place was the same, but I was not. Old priorities felt trivial. My outlook had shifted. I saw my own culture with new eyes, noticing its beauty and flaws. Friends noticed I was more confident, open, and empathetic. The world was no longer scary. It was full of potential friends. Travel unlocked a part of me I never knew existed. I learned happiness isn't a destination, but a way of traveling, found in moments, connections, and learning. Now, travel is essential to my life, a source of growth and joy. Every trip adds a new layer to who I am. The world is a book, and I'm grateful I decided to turn the page. It's been the most incredible story. If my story sparked even a little curiosity, nurture it. Travel isn't as impossible as it seems. You're more capable than you think. You don't have to go far. Start with a new city or a local park. Growth begins with a single step into the unknown. Imagine the stories you could tell, the people you could meet, the person you could become. Don't wait for the perfect time. Start small. Start now. The world is waiting to teach, challenge, and change you. Every effort and every moment of fear is worth it. What's one place you've always dreamed of? Take a step toward it today. The journey is worth it, I promise.